Hello, guys. Welcome to another podcast in this series, the AI enabled software developer. And this is a series where we talk about various AI topics and how it sort of affects the software development landscape. Is it going to replace my job? Is it going to, how am I going to adapt to the changes? What are the new skills that I have to learn? And a lot of other things. We are both software developers, and not just that, Ashish here is a very seasoned software developer from Samsung, and he works on the backend team at Samsung, and I work on the front end. Let's get on to it. So, what do you say, Ashish? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Had breakfast.
yeah,
I know it's a little early to be recording.
it's all right, not an issue. We are used to it, right? It's the new
Yeah, yeah.
us. Yeah. So coming to about myself, like I'm a software developer at Samsung. We pretty much work in the e-commerce department of Samsung, where we usually take care of all the web-related, mobile-related applications of the e-commerce domain.
Awesome, bro. There's a fun fact, guys, about what he does. Our Samsung e-commerce site during the flagship period, right? Whenever Samsung sort of introduces a new product or something, the amount of traffic that comes on, right? Our company
Yeah.
makes revenue in the order of close to like, and these guys have to handle pretty much everything on the backend side. So he's being pretty humble about it. So yeah, coming to me, I work on the same side, but except on the front end side. I don't want to talk too much about it. All right, guys. So without wasting any more time, let's get on to all the questions that our audience, mainly software developers, junior, mid-level software developers, have asked for us. So it is going to be value packed. So I'm excited for what is ahead. This kind of is the most hottest question that's going on in the software development space.
Do you really think our jobs are safe from AI?
So Ashish, my take is that it entirely depends if you're a bullshit developer or not. And I'm sorry to be this rude, but if your entire job revolves around writing test cases or building these small components or landing pages, obviously they are going to get replaced. But real software development takes a lot more than that. If you are the sort of developer who can build end-to-end full-fledged products that users can actually use, and that they can scale it to like $1 million, because that is how robust that product is. And if you are the developer who can do that with or without even AI, if I were to give AI to that particular person, he's going to be able to build the same product in like 10x the time, right? That one person is enough. So when that is the
Yeah.
case, that person is actually capable of being a 10x developer, right? But on the other side, if you're just like, a generalist who's not really great at one thing, who just like know little bits of every single thing, right? If you do not know what code needs to be written where, then what ends up happening is that even with AI, if the AI were to give you some wrong answers, right, you won't know if it is going in the right direction or in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So you don't have the potential to become a 10x developer.
As long as we are more productive with all these tools, increase our productivity, we'll be safe, I guess, right? What do you say?
Yeah. But there is a downside to the same thing. Basically, let's say Ashish is going to be a 10x developer. Basically, he can use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. He can do the same work as 10 other developers, right? In that case, he basically takes away all the jobs of 10 other developers. So the
Yeah.
question becomes, how can you be a 10x developer and not just be one of those people who get replaced? So I would say my answer is, if you can actually have the capability to become a 10x developer, then sure, it is not going to replace you for the next couple of years or even a decade. But if you're the sort of person who's a generalist, who's not really great at one thing, I would say AI has the potential to automate what you're doing. So at least that's my take, Ashish. What do you think?
Basically, I don't see AI can really help code or in all areas. Like, let's say if there is a strong business requirement that only you can understand, and you can talk with your PMs, managers, everyone in order to like write based on their inputs, then really AI can't take over me here, right? It can just write what I tell, but not what everyone expects, right?
Okay, so
And it
what
should
you're saying
also
is
know
that,
about the code that is written already in the entire code base, which is very large. So it should understand. No one are going to give that code bases to any AI. It's all secured, right? So they're not allowing you to use those tools directly also sometimes, right? So in all these cases, I don't think you can really rely on AI, or AI really can replace you.
so Ashish, what you're saying is that since the code base is pretty huge and there's a lot of integrations, a lot of versions and all of that,
Yeah.
and because there's so many different conflicting versions and whatnot, it's very difficult to feed all of that to AI, or at least in the current state of where AI is, and get your output.
Any generic code can be automated by an AI. Like, let's say if you want to write a switch block or an if block, something like that, or a for loop having like which spins up multiple processes. Something like which is very generic to any use case. Those things can be easily given to any AI tool that you can really copy paste into your code. Just like how we used to do from Stack Overflow earlier. All the code
Hmm.
snippets are available there. We used to just type in Google, get the Stack Overflow link. The code snippet will be available there. I'll copy paste into my code. That can be done. But the entire business requirement, coding the entire use cases or entire functional requirements will not going to be offloaded to any AI. Like that will not work, right?
Right,
That's
right.
what I'm trying to say. Specific
So,
requirements we can't offload to AI, but generic coding snippets and all we can easily rely on it.
okay, let's move on to the next question. What are the key skills that will be most valuable in the future job market, regardless of specific roles?
Yes, this is a good question, I guess, because these days everyone are equally knowledgeable because of the easy availability of content.
And you're saying that pretty much anybody can upskill by
Yeah,
themselves and then get to a point where a software
they're
developer
equally.
can.
So that's what I'm about to end. Like, let's say skills, having knowledge is not all enough these days. Only things that AI cannot overtake you is the having soft skills, like how you present, how you market yourself, how you will be more sound and more visible. Those
Mhm.
things AI can never take you from any developer, not only from me, not it cannot take from any developer. If they're sound, if they're very like fluently communicating their thoughts.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically, I would say we're solving problems of other human beings, and that would require another human being to sort of lend an empathetic ear, understand the requirements, and then communicate that effectively and sort of hit those, or rather break down those problems, have all the stakeholders informed, and that requires a lot of communication, that requires a lot of soft skills. People want their problem solved, but they can't just be like talking to some AI. They want a real
Yeah,
human, and they sort of want to
yeah,
delegate
yeah,
that part and be able to trust that particular person. And right now, at least the current state of where AI is, it's very difficult to. It's like the recipe for
yeah,
disaster, right?
definitely correct.
Letting AI just like take control of your code base and just letting it do whatever changes and deploy it. Let's just imagine if
That
the
all
same thing
was.
happens for big tech, right? It would be the worst disaster.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely,
I
and
see. There are some use cases where the senior technical people will are scared to at least give that task to juniors because they are not completely matured enough to take certain tasks. Then how can they really offload it to an AI which is completely I mean like which can't think on think on its own basically. It only depends upon the
absolutely.
inputs what you give.
Let's move on to the next question. How can educational institutions adapt their curriculums to prepare students for the AI-powered job market?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because our curriculum is very old. Like when we are doing a BTech or college days, even a like 10 years old senior also read the same curriculum, had the same curriculum, right? And maybe you all would have also had the same curriculum what I had, like
Yeah.
more or less. Yeah, that should be changed a lot. Like edtech coming into place, like tech platforms, right? Like Baiju, Scalar, etc., etc. So these edtech platforms are completely changing their curriculum. In our first year, second year of college life, we had some subjects which are not going to be useful for us at all. Like let's say this electronics, digital electronics, civil engineering. I don't think that are not really useful for a CS guy, right? Anyways, you
Bro, I
can
had to
take that.
learn microprocessors. I don't know why. Like, I had to learn how
Yeah,
transistors worked. I was told that, I need to understand how transistors and how zeros and ones sort of like, goes inside of the AND gate or whatever. Like, there is so much abstractions and we've got fucking supercomputers right now.
lot
Why
of
do we
time
need to,
waste, right? All these
right?
things, like unless
Yeah.
and until it is going to be helpful for you in certain point of time in future, learning is fine.
I
But
think it's more
definitely
of
those
a,
things will never come in your way, right? So what is the
yeah,
point of learning? Spending six months of time learning one subject is really unfair, is what I feel. And
yeah.
edtechs are really taking this advantage. They are starting the curriculums having all the useful tech stacks that are really needed in software engineering right from the first year of the college. So let's say we had AI, data science related topics, the data warehousing. These topics are coming to us only in the fourth year of BTech in my
Hmm.
curriculum, what I had. All these should be taught way earlier is what I feel. See, fourth year there is no time for anyone to really heartfully learn all these things. They are very busy with all the placements, jobs, everything. I personally feel the things that are really useful for any person in their later stage of future should be taught way earlier in their curriculum, the first year,
Absolutely.
second year. They should also have a mix and match of the fundamental computer science like operating system C, and along with that, instead of having civil engineering for a CS guy, put something called as data science, like basics of data science, something like that. And it will be fueled by all these tech companies anyway. And that makes the other colleges also to change their curriculum. What do you
Absolutely.
say?
I mean, I'm not really sure what to say because I did not take computer science in my college, right? I was a triple E graduate. Content is pretty much available everywhere on YouTube, right? Like even the fundamentals of computer science, if you're aiming for FANG, let's say, or if basically these FANG companies require a very generalized sort of an understanding of pretty much everything, that they can sort of train the candidate and build on top of that. What I'm interested is going after solving real world problems, and those real world problems like what startups are doing or whatever, they don't require as much generalized knowledge. They want very specific knowledge, like learn this particular tech stack or know how to do this particular thing, right? And
Yeah,
that's kind
yeah.
of what got me in. And I just like watched a couple of playlists, bought a bunch of Udemy courses and whatnot, got my first job, signed myself up to some boot camp, and I was like set. I think colleges are more like a testament of, okay, this guy suffered this much, this guy was consistently suffering and he was consistently able to get these grades, and it's a testament of your potential more than your actual value
Yeah.
add to the world. Let's move on to the next question. So as AI continues to evolve, how do you envision the future of work changing in the next few years? If you're working with some smaller company, the rate at which product or software is going to be shipped is going to be super fast. I think the future requires you have a good level of network, that opportunities keep coming to you, and there's like you sort of move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. The future is going to be like freelancing, where entire products get built in a span of 1 or 2 months, and then you just move on to the next, where you are just visible and people can just like ring you up and ask you for 2 months of your time, where you build it out, and then that's it, you just move on
Yeah.
to the next thing.
I know a few companies also like focusing more on these things in order to ship the products very fastly. They can't spare months of time to write code, then build product, then ship, right?
Mm.
Whatever tool that is available to make their job much faster is what they're going to really rely on, and also ask their developers to start relying on. Yeah, so that's how the trend of working might change in future.
How can individuals stay informed about the latest AI developments and future trends?
Well,
Follow us.
really, I completely rely on news, yeah, Insta maybe.
I personally wouldn't want to follow these big companies and whatever it is that they're putting out, these benchmark scores. Like, Grok is saying one thing, Claude is saying one thing, GPT-4 is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
with all these, inflated benchmarks and whatnot. They could be pretty honest, but still the actual product is far from what they've sort of, portrayed in their demos and whatnot, including Devin AI. They could just be doing it for the hype, and they could just be wanting that investor money, right? But the actual product, as a software developer, you would have to use it and you would have to test it yourself. So the question now becomes, how can you actually understand or learn about the true authenticity of the product? And to do that, what I personally tend to do is I either get early access to it, or sort of test it out and see how it sort of like fares against my daily activities, like during my workflow as a software developer. Or I tend to sort of follow a lot of thought leaders on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatnot, be a part of circles that actively are trying out these products and discussing these products and understanding what are their strengths and weaknesses. So I would much rather prefer the second version as opposed to what these big companies who create those products have to say about it.
Even people who are not technically aware about what things are happening in software engineering is also started talking about Devin.
Absolutely,
It
man.
unnecessarily creates FOMO for many people, right? Though I know it really not going to replace me any day, but still it starts generating that fear, right?
These
Yeah.
influencers, they have no clue that real software development is like 70% not even coding. It's basically just like, there's a lot of discussions happening, the best strategizing, the creative work. And that sort of constitutes 80-70% of what software development is. And there's like 20% of coding. But the way these influencers tend to portray these new tools is that, okay, software
Yeah.
development is dead, right? And we know that,
Yeah.
it's not really the case. AI is good at this one particular thing called coding, right? Just like
Yeah.
coding it out. Let's say there's a movie, let's say Avatar, right? There's so many things happening behind the scenes, right? There's so many things like, script writing and editing and lighting and whatnot. But AI takes care of this one small thing called acting, and that's it. But acting itself is like just 2% of what making a
So
movie
the
is
entire
all
movie
about,
covers. Yeah.
right? And that's kind of the same thing that happens with software development as well.
I see HRs are using these AI tools to recruit people, to filter out people. How can we be safe from AI not really rejecting our resumes?
A couple of years ago, software developers weren't as much in number, right? We've got like way too many demand, or rather, way too many surplus of developers compared to the demand that exists out there, right? And those companies, when they post a job opening or whatever, there's going to be like a flood of applications coming in, right? So it's not feasible that one person can sort of go through all these applications, sort of,
Yeah.
and it becomes very hectic, right? So at the end of the day, AI is an eventuality. There needs to be some intelligence rather, sort of going through it very quickly, sort of filtering it out, and then showing the recruiter or the hiring manager that these are the potential candidates according to whatever it is that you posted the requirements, right? So I'm not vilifying AI, the role that AI plays here. So the question then becomes, how can we adapt ourselves to it, right? So I would say,
Yeah.
the old ways of, I'm going to make my resume really pretty, put different colors and whatnot. That's really not going to work in 2024, I would say. Right? Because at the end of the day, you want to structure in such a way that it actually captures the AI's attention. I would say keep it really simple. Don't try to use any fancy layouts or whatever. Just like stick to the regular format of, the sort of formats that Google or Amazon would sort of like put on their websites. Try to follow the same way of doing it. I would also say there's a lot of people trying to game it by basically what they do is that they sort of copy the job description and put it in the resume, and then they sort of make it white such that it sort of blends in with the rest of the resume. That it's not really visible to the human eye, but the AI is going to look at that, and okay, this text sort of matches with the job opening. So let's shortlist this particular resume. So there's a lot of people gaming that as well. That's
So
what I feel.
basically, you are saying we need to be aware about how really AI evaluates your resume, also, right?
That's
Not
right. Yeah.
just blindly going and having that old traditional template on your resume. Will not going to work anymore from future, right? Even though they're technically good, like I've seen multiple people, they're technically sound. They know everything. They know what even ChatGPT knows. In that level of technical knowledge they have, but there are some things, some gaps on their resume that these ATS softwares are clearly rejecting. ATS software, the A tools, what really ATS softwares are one of the A tools I think that
Right.
HRs use to evaluate their resumes, right? Yeah, I've known one guy like where he has a gap in his work history. Like he took that gap because of some health reason, but all the other points in the resume are too technically good. This ATS software clearly rejected that resume just because he has some gap in his work history.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah. That is not a good thing, right? Like ideally, HR should know that why this person really has a gap. Yeah, those things will really get missed, right? When AI evaluates your resume.
This discussion actually brings up another question that I had in my mind. So, do you think that applying for these job listings is the best way to go to get a job?
But if
The
you go in
reason,
another channel like referrals or in some other way, reaching out the
Mhm.
recruiters directly, that might work. But if you are going in a generic way of applying to a company from their company portals where everyone will apply, basically,
Mhm.
will make your chances of getting selected less because of more levels of filtering.
Isn't that a more smarter way to go, which is to widen your network to such a point where
Yeah, that
you
that's
have.
what the skills that we really need to possess.
Do you think personal brand would play a role in people getting
Yeah,
jobs?
absolutely correct. Those days were gone where people just see your resume and oh, this guy have Node.js, 5-star proficiency in Node.js. Oh, this guy is really good in Node.js. That can't be assumed these days. So showing visibility is what really matters. Like you should have worked on some open source contributions. You should have some blogs written. That really shows okay, this guy is really genuine. Whatever he's claiming is correct. That is what you need
That's
to
right.
really portray.
So you're saying that having that personal brand would sort of
Hmm.
give that confidence to the interviewer that okay,
Yeah, exactly.
I can actually give this person 1 hour of my time to actually go and
Yes.
evaluate. Because the problem that I see with a lot of developers is not a lack of skill, but rather nobody's given the opportunity to even portray their skills, right?
Correct.
And if you can stand out there, you can have opportunities coming your way, and then it falls on you to convert that particular opportunity.
Convert that, yeah, claim as genuine. Yes, correct. You should make your work skills, everything more visible. That's on your responsibility, how you will make it more visible.
The audience might have this question: what are the exact things that I can do to sort of elevate my personal brand? I usually do a few things where I tend to post a lot of content on LinkedIn. I post YouTube videos, basically me coding it out, and that sort of immediately sort of signals to people that I'm sort of good when it comes to coding, because if I'm good enough to teach somebody, then I'm probably good enough to code it out as well, right?
Content in any form will make anyone think that you know something, that you can deliver something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, take Ashish's advice seriously. Post content. Don't just like learn and keep it to yourself. Make a lot of noise in social media, because that's how you get people's attention.
Yeah. Do you really think students are going to affect with these AI tools?
Absolutely, man. I mean, if I were back in college and I just needed some grades there, I would just want to find the shortest route, and I just want to wing it and get my marks right. But the problem is that when you're thinking about this long term, so this sort of ties in with what I said initially, right? Which is like, can you become a 10x developer or not, right? And in order to become a 10x developer, you need to know what you're doing inside out better than anybody else. And then you are sort of making your entire process and workflow faster using AI. But if you're that sort of a student that sort of like does not really understand your code or does not really write your own CSS, at least at the start, at least write your JavaScript at the start, and if you're just like using AI from the very start, it sort of trains you to think of things at a very superficial level, which might not really work out for you in the long run. As a final note, I would just say to the viewers that if you are somebody who's still in college, or if you're still a junior developer, I would say, don't rely too much on AI tools, because that would make you lazy at the very start. Because at the end of the day, if you want to have a very fulfilling, deep career where you can actually use AI to your advantage and become a 10x developer, you would absolutely have to have a very strong hold on your fundamentals. And that comes from really suffering, to be honest. Because, just thinking about it for a long time instead of just like going for some quick solutions, that is where the real growth happens. If you want to understand certain concepts, or if you want AI to sort of explain things in a lot more simpler way, obviously it would be your best companion. But if you're just like building your own projects, I would say do it yourself. Get that thick skin around solving difficult problems, and that would really set you up for success in the long run, is what I'd say. What do you think, Ashish?
That's absolutely correct. Being students, we should not concentrate more on these tools to really help us. Try to make yourself more into solving things than depending on some tools to solve things. Like use your brain more than some tool. That's what I
Yeah,
really
at
say.
least at the start, I would say. At least,
Yeah, starting at least in your college days, like where you have no pressure of getting laid off, no pressure of getting. There is no time boundedness, right? At least in
yeah.
college, when you're doing some projects, that time we should use to upskill ourselves rather than relying on some tools to just finish off some things.
That's great advice, man. I
Yeah.
really hope that our viewers found value in our conversations. If you
Yeah, I
like
hope
what
so.
you saw, or if you'd want us to cover different questions, please do put it in the comments below, and we'd be happy to take them up for you. Thank you very much, Ashish, for joining our call, and I hope to make another video with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Harish. It's nice talking to you. Let's meet in the office tomorrow back. Bye bye. Yeah.